Hi, this is Don Farber with VineyardSoft Corporation, and I'd like to welcome you to this training session on the KnowledgeSync solution. The subject for this session will be the creation of linked queries that retrieve and analyze data across multiple business applications. Now, this is the second of 3 training sessions on linked query design, and we strongly recommend that you have listened to the first training session on linked queries before proceeding with the current session. For this session, we're going to discuss an event that uses 2 queries from 2 different business applications. And in fact, the event that we're going to look at starts out by identifying new sales opportunities that have been entered into a sales or CRM application for customers who also happen to be on credit hold but are on hold within an accounting or ERP system. Now, in KnowledgeSync, when you create an event that uses multiple queries, the first thing that you need to do is to identify how those 2 queries are going to be linked together. Or another way of looking at it is what field do those 2 queries have in common. In this particular event's case, our first query is looking at new sales opportunities for customers in our sales or CRM application. Our second query is then checking to see if those same customers are on credit hold. So clearly, the field that we're going to use for linking purposes, the field that both of these applications have in common, is the customer field. And so we can look at linking these 2 queries by something such as the customer name or customer number. So let's now take a closer look at each of these queries. We're going to start out by taking a look at the query in our sales or CRM application that identifies newly placed sales opportunities. Now, this query is designed just like any other query that would be used to identify newly placed sales. This query is retrieving data from multiple tables in our sales or CRM database. Those tables are linked together using the KnowledgeSync linking wizard. And on the Columns tab, we're able to select those fields of information that we might wish to use in our alert message or in our workflow. And you can see that we've chosen fields of data such as the amount of the sales opportunity and the probability of the opportunity closing. But before we go any further in this query, we need to make sure that we have chosen the field that our 2 queries have in common, our linking field. And in our example, we're going to use the customer's name. As I said, you could use any field of data that is in common between your 2 queries, whether it's an account number, social security number, or other field that again exists in both of your applications and can be retrieved by both of your queries. As I mentioned, in this query and in this event, we are going to use the customer account name as our linking field. So we need to make sure to choose that field as a column, and most importantly, we need to make a mental note of the customized name of the field we're linking from. In this case, that customized name is the word account. If we jump over to the Filters tab, we'll notice that this query has 2 filters. The first one is making sure that this query is going to retrieve only those opportunities that are open, and secondly, only those opportunities that were created today. At this point, we are now ready to look at our second query, or our Link To query. That query is contained in our ERP application. So we'll scroll down our list until we get to our Link To queries and open up the query that identifies those customers who are on credit hold. Now, I'd like to note that although the preceding query, the opportunities created today, can, if you wished, be run by itself, a Link To query, such as the one we're working in now, can never be run by itself. That is, a Link To query is dependent on a preceding query to set some information, the link from, that the Link To query is later going to utilize. So I always like to preface my Link To query descriptions with the words Link To. That lets me know that when I configure an event, I need to choose a preceding query first before choosing a Link To query for use by an event. Now again, if we take a look at this query, we can see that it's retrieving data from a couple different tables in our ERP or accounting database. Those tables are once again linked together. And within our accounting system, we're retrieving a number of fields of data such as the customer's name, their current balance, and their credit limit. Now it is on the Filters tab of the Link To query where you link this query to a preceding query. And so we're going to start out by looking at the second filter for this query. Notice that we are filtering on the customer name because we've already decided that that is the value that both our queries have in common, the customer name. And so our filter is reading that the customer's name is equal to, and now in our compare value, all we need to do is to choose the customized name of the field that we're linking from. That is our field from our preceding query. And having just looked at our CRM query, we know that the customer's name is stored in a field called account. So here in the compare value, I simply type in that customized name, account, and I surround that name with curly braces. It is those curly braces that tells KnowledgeSync that this compare value is a field that's coming from a preceding query. Now before we leave this query, one important note. Link To queries such as this one are not available for preview, as preview mode in KnowledgeSync has no knowledge of a preceding query. Therefore, if we previewed this query, we would always get no matching records. In order to test an event that uses both of these queries, we actually need to run the event itself. And so let's cancel out of this query and go back into the event that uses both of the queries we've just looked at. Now, if we reopen this event, I'm going to go to the Queries tab and actually remove all of the queries so that I can walk you through the steps of selecting the two queries for this event. Now, the first query that we're going to select is, again, the query on our sales or CRM data. So I'm going to click on Add Query, but note, by default, we're going to get a list of all of our queries for our ERP application, and in this case, we actually want to retrieve a query from our CRM application, so we're going to click on the button called Select Another Application. Here, we'll choose our CRM application and scroll our list down until we find our opportunity-related queries and choose our query that identifies newly placed sales opportunities. At this point, we're now ready to select our Link To query. Once again, I'll click on Add Query, scroll our list down until we get to our link queries, and locate our query that identifies those accounts that are on credit hold. At this point, we are done selecting queries for this event. And when this event runs, our first query against our CRM application will look to see if there are any newly placed sales opportunities, and if there are, KnowledgeSync will retrieve the first of those matching records and take that customer name and then go and run our second query to see if that same customer is on credit hold. And if they are, this event will be triggered for that record and the corresponding alerts and workflow will be executed. And speaking of alerts and workflow, one of the very nice things about a cross-application event such as this one is that our alerts and workflow both have access to all of the information from both queries that are associated with this event. So if we take a look down at our email alert message and scroll down a little bit, you'll notice that this alert message begins with some information from our CRM query, such as the amount of the opportunity, the forecast probability of closing, as well as the forecast close date. And if we scroll just a little bit beyond that, we'll see a number of fields of information from our ERP query, such as the customer's current credit limit, current balance, and aged receivables. It's also worth noting that although this event is retrieving data from just two queries, an event is not limited to just two queries. A single event can utilize up to 100 queries, and you can have as many of those queries as you wish retrieving data from different application databases. So, That wraps up this second of 3 training courses on the configuration of linked queries. We very much do encourage you to listen to the 3rd and final training course on linked query design. So at this point, I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you in a future KnowledgeSync training session. Thanks very much.